the ARM Cortex basics. Yeah. So I have just given the various operating modes. What are the fundamental operations on the ARM Cortex processor. Now today we shall see a little more detail in the sense the special registers, how the stack operations are performed, and some of the control registers, okay, and how some of the registers are helping in the operating systems. Okay, so to begin with, as people have studied the ARM processor, you know that the processor has 16 registers, R0 to R15, and this Cortex M3 processor has got number of special registers. So R0 through R12 are general purpose. Okay. And one more thing I have highlighted in the last class, the features of ARM Cortex, something like there is a thumb 2. What are the advantages of thumb 2 instruction with respect to your general ARM7? So we did not have switching between the arm and the thumb in the thumb 2, because which will save the time and switching time. Okay, so it will be fast. So we have got some special registers with their own predefined functions. So let us see the registers which are used in the Cortex M3. We have low registers and the high registers. That is, you are dividing the whole 16 registers at 8 R0 to R7 as low registers. But please note that these registers can be accessed by all 16-bit thumb instructions. What we mean here is, even though there is a thumb 2 mode, it can also support your previous versions. Okay, previous version, whatever we have supported, those things can be used in the processor. So this lower 8 registers can be accessed by all 16-bit thumb instructions and all your 32-bit thumb 2 instructions. Okay, why we call it as 32-bit thumb 2? Because it is, the instructions are 32-bit and your thumb is hidden in it. Okay, so they are all 32 bits. All the registers are of 32 bits. Your 8 to 12 registers are called as high registers. These registers are accessed by all thumb 2 instructions, but not by your 16-bit thumb instructions. Okay. So this is your the register structure, which we can see R0 to R15 dividing as low registers and the high registers. We have the stack pointer. We have got 2 here. As you can notice, we have a PSP, process stack pointers, and another one. Okay. So R13 is your stack pointer. We have a link register, program counter. In the special register, we have a program status registers and various interrupt mask registers and the control registers. Okay. So stack pointer, there are 2 stack pointers, as I just mentioned. One is it is used for your general purpose stack pointer. That is this R13, which we can access in the current stack pointer, and we can use the special instruction to move to special register from general purpose registers. So here is an option. Maybe, I don't know whether you remember, in ARM processor, there are instructions which can copy into the special register from the general purpose registers, that is MSR, and move special registers to general purpose, that is MRS. Okay, so there are instructions supported to copy, because the processor the uses in the handler mode and the your user mode and the handler mode. So when we switch between the two modes, we need to make use of these registers so that it can copy certain informations on the special registers. The stack pointer, the two stack pointers are main stack pointer and the process stack pointer. Your main stack pointer is the default one. Okay? It is used by your operating system kernel, exception handlers, and all your application code that require privileged access. Please note this. So this is used in your operating system level. And you have a process stack pointer. This is used in your normal user level applications. Okay. So when you are not running any exception handler. So by default, you'll be using the process stack pointer. That is the reason in the register configuration, we've shown only the process stack pointer. It's the same, but you'll be, I mean, you do not, you have a main stack pointer and the process stack pointer. So this main stack pointer is used in your exceptions, means in the handler mode. So we need not use both your stack pointers. Some applications, they purely rely on your main stack pointer. So this is just a code showing the push and, the Cortex M3 instruction for accessing the stack memory. You have a stack pointer, and the instructions used to access the stack memory are push and pop. It's a very basic. We have a push and pop instructions are used. This shows a simple one register pushing it. As we know that either you can use stack as incremental way or can be decremental. Each processor will have its own way of moving onto the stack memory. So here we can see when you push a register content, please note that you will be pushing a word, not a byte or a half word. When I specify push R0, it is going to copy a 32-bit data. Okay. So when there is a push, your stack pointer will be decremented by 4, and whatever the value you have it in the R0 will be saved in the stack memory. Similarly, when you do pop, first you pop it out, that is copy whatever you have in the stack memory onto the specified destination register, then you increment the stack pointer. Okay. We also have option for multiple registers. If you recall, the processor support multi-register saving in the ARM. With the one clock cycle, you can copy, like your load multiple registers, store multiple registers. So set of registers can be copied to a specified pointer. So when here, the difference over here is I need not give the pointer. If I give load multiple registers, normally we'll have a pointer, but here I need not, because by default your pointer is the stack pointer. So you can push multiple registers onto the stack memory, and you can pop off multiple registers onto the registers. So this is a BX, that is branch exchange, return to the calling function whenever you use the subroutine. So stack point, I mean, either you specify R13 or say SP, both are the same. And inside your program code, both main stack pointer and the program process stack pointer are called as R13 slash or stack pointer. Okay, you don't give separated MSP or PSP. It is just SP. So particular stack pointer can be accessed using the special register access instruction. If you want to copy that, you can make use of this special register copy instructions. Okay. So your main stack pointer is also called as stack pointer underscore main in the documentation. Okay. And your program process stack pointer is SP underscore process in your documentation. So this is mainly used by thread process in a system when you are embedded with the operating system running. So you can use this when you run with the to handle the various threads in small the functions, simple functions. So when you use push and pop operations, I mean, as I've just mentioned, it's a word aligned. You'll be copying the whole 32-bit word. So your address will be incremented by 0, 4, 8, etc. Okay. So all, as you know that it's a 32-bit address and you have 32-bit data. The whole word has been accessed. So the address will be incremented by 4. Okay. Since you have all even numbers 0, 4, 8, etc., the bit 0 and bit 1 are hardwired to 0. Okay, and always read as 0. So that is just to, even though it's you have address different because all are even numbers 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. Straight away you have 4, 8. So the least significant 2 bits are always made 0. Yeah, the link register, so you know the function very well. It is used to copy the return address whenever you push or whenever you call a function or a subroutine or your interrupt service routine or an exception. Okay, so whenever you switch to the different threads of execution, you need to know that where you are supposed to come back, that branch with link. Okay, so this, I mean, return address will be saved. Okay, so you are using this branch with link function, and when you return it, you have a branch exchange with the link register, so that you can copy the return address onto the program counter wherever it is supposed to continue. So, but the fact that bit 0 of PC is always 0 because instructions are word aligned or half word or aligned, the link register bit is readable and writable, the LR bit 0, only the bit 0. So this is because we need to identify in your thumb operations, because in thumb instruction set, bit 0 is used to indicate what state it is, whether it is ARM state or the thumb state in your thumb instruction set. Maybe you must have noticed in your CPSR. In CPSR, there is a bit used to identify whether it is a thumb mode or the ARM mode. And to allow the thumb to program for this Cortex M3 to work with other ARM processors that support the thumb 2 technology, the least significant bit is writable and readable. Okay, so that is what we do in the Cortex 3, because it can also used in your thumb 2 as well as in the thumb not 16-bit modes. that is of the previous versions. Yeah, this is very well known. That's R15 is program counter, which will be pointing to the address of the execution. But because of your pipelining in nature, so as we know that this Cortex M3 using it is stacked on your ARM7 processor. ARM7 uses three-stage pipelining, and this Cortex M3 is developed on the same with the stacking on top of the whatever, because with the many more complex features. So yeah, that is about the pipelining. As we know that there is a fetch, decode, and execute, a simple pipelining stages, pipeline stages. So since you decode the next instruction when you're, when you are fetching the, say for example, I'm fetching the instruction 1 and then I go to decode. When I decode the first instruction, second instruction can be fetched. So that is the reason whenever you point program counter in this way, that is 1000 with this instruction, the R0, because whenever I fetch move instruction, automatically the program counter will be incremented by 4. So you will have, when you execute new R0 comma PC value, PC will be automatically incremented. You will read 1004 because it is incremented by 4 because of the pipelining nature. Yeah, special registers. We have program status registers, interrupt mask registers, and the control. As I have shown in my initial slides, the special registers used in the processor. You have a MRS, that is read the special register. MSR is write to special registers. Okay, so read the special registers, write to the special registers. In the program status register, we have three, you divide into further as application program status register, interrupt program status register, and execution program status registers. Okay, but if you look at the format, anyway, this is just to the instruction showing how you can read the state. Suppose I want to read the application program status register is nothing but your simple, the flags, NZCV, Q, whatever, negate, the one which you know about, the flag bits. If I want to read, MRS is meaning I'm reading the special registers. APSR is for your application, whatever I'm using, the flags, I can read it, and interrupt, read the exception state, and the EPSR for execution state. I can read the execution state. And the MSR means I can write onto the special registers. So I can modify something. But that again, when and where which we can use this will makes the difference. Whether I can use it in the user mode or in your the exception or the system mode. Yeah, this is the format showing program status register. As you can notice, the APSR is showing only the flag bits, IPSR showing the exception numbers, EPSR is showing some the thumb mode and the interrupt. Okay, so let us see what are the bits. I mean, this is the complete format, bit fields of the combined program status register. Let us see what are those. So NZCV is your flags, and ICI/IT is interrupt continuable instruction bits. Whether you want to continue with the instruction for the interrupts, that is if then instruction status bit. If then instruction status bit. Then I have a T which says thumb, which will try to clear this bit, will cause a fault exception. So thumb state is always 1, and you have exception number indicates when which exception the processor is handling, the different modes. Coming to the different the mask registers, we have these are used in your the exception handling, primary, fault, and the base priority registers. So these are used in the exception handling. Your operating system can use your fault mask to temporarily disable fault handling when the task has crashed. Whenever any task is crashed, so you can say where these registers. So normally all these registers are, I mean, whatever these configurations we have in the configuration dot file, as well as in your the header file which we use it specifically for the processor. So we'll be having all these registers which are set or reset when we make use of the operating systems. So this fault mask is used to temporarily disable a fault handling when any task has crashed. So once your core starts cleaning up, it might not want to be interrupted by other faults caused by the crashed process. Okay, so that we need to. And hence your fault mask gives the kernel time to deal with your fault conditions. So which will gives the time for dealing with your various fault conditions. There are different types of fault. So it will give the, okay, and your primary mask and base priority registers are useful for temporarily dealing interrupts in your time critical task. So whenever you use some critical interrupt based task, so we make use of these. I mean, you set up some priority, and you can mask the unwanted or the less critical task. You use these registers. Yeah, so these are the description of the different mask registers. As it is given over here, your primary mask, it's a 1-bit register. So when it is set, which please note that when it is set, which allows non-maskable interrupt and hard fault exceptions. There are hard and the soft fault exceptions. Okay, so hard in sense very time critical task. So we can hard real time and soft real time. You must have noted exactly in a similar way. It is used, okay, non-maskable interrupt and the hard fault exception. All other interrupts and exceptions are masked. Okay. Then again your fault mask register, it's again a 1-bit register when set, which allows only NMI, and all interrupts and fault handling exceptions are disabled, which means this is handling only the NMI. The default value is 0, which means that no masking is set. Okay, by default it is 0. And finally your base priority, which is an 8-bit, so that you can set various priority like 002 FFFF. There are 255 priority levels, you can set it using the base priority registers. When this is set, so your priority level is set. When this is set, it disables the all interrupts of the same or lower level. Higher priority interrupts can be still allowed. This is set to 0, the masking function is disabled. Okay, that is the default. So these are the some set of functions which the C programming functions used in the, I mean, they are available in your microcontrollers. So whoever is using, I mean, suppose I'm using the NXP semiconductors, they will have some C functions. So if I have x is equal to underscore get underscore base priority, this function is to read the base priority register. Similarly, I have a primary mask register. This is not mark. I'm sorry, this should be mask. Then fault mask register. You can set new value onto the various mask registers, and you can underscore disable underscore IRQ. So which will clear your primary mask and enable the normal interrupt request. Okay. So there are normal interrupt and the fast interrupt. The two modes are used in the processor. I'm just going on thinking that it's more or less theory, but emphasis is given on when, I mean, even though we don't go through the various what library functions which are used in the specific OS, but we should have some little knowledge about the various registers used. Yeah. So these are the, I mean, your assembly code, the same thing used. Similar, I mean, the one which I have shown with the C. Okay, MRS R0, you can get the special registers. So you use the special register instruction to read or write. But please remember that I cannot write in your normal user mode. Yeah, coming to the last one, which is control register. Control register. This is used to define the privilege level and the stack pointer selection. So this is a 2-bit register, 2-bit register. As I pointed out, there are two, I mean, we have two stack pointers, main stack pointer and the process stack pointer. Okay. So this control register, I mean, the all registers are 32-bit, but you have the remaining are of tie state. I mean, you don't know what is it. I mean, you will be using only the 2-bit. That's what is meaning here. So the control bit 1, control bit 1. Okay. So it's a 2-bit. If control bit 1, if it is 1, you will be using alternate stack is used. If it is 0, default stack is used. If it is in the thread or base level, the alternate stack is the process stack pointer. So there is no alternate stack for the alternate mode. Okay, there is no alternate stack for the handler mode. So this must be 0 when the processor is in the handler mode. Okay, I'm going to show this maybe in the next slide that I think straight away we'll go to that to know that control bits 0 and 1 when they are used. And this least significant bit, control 0, if it is 0, you say that it is privileged in the thread mode. If it is 1, user state in the thread mode. Okay, so we will understand better. I'll show that and I'll come back. Yeah. So as I have mentioned already, the M3 processors support two modes, privileged and the user mode. Privileged mode and the user mode. So user mode is the general mode that, okay, you have a thread, user level threads, the small functions, whatever you use it, and you have a privileged. In that you have a handler mode and you have a thread. As you can notice here, in that control bit 0 will be 0 in your privileged thread mode, it will be 1 in your user thread mode. Okay, and control bit 1 is 0 in your privileged handler mode, and which we don't use it in the use. Okay, so when the processor is running in the thread mode, can be either in the privileged or user level, but handlers can only be in the privileged level. This I have already mentioned. Okay, I hope you got it clear. I'll go back. Yeah, this is just a detailing of the control bits of your special register. Control 1 is always 0 in the handler mode, as I have already shown, 0 in the handler mode. However, in the user level, it can be either 0 or 1. In the user level, can be either 0 or 1 when you are handling. Okay, in the user level, this control bit 0. I mean control. I was talking about control 1. Control 1. I'm sorry. Control 1. It is used in the privileged, that is privileged mode. But here in the user mode, it's a tri-state. Yeah. Now this bit is writable only when the core is in the thread mode and privileged. Okay, in user state or handler mode, writing to this bit is not allowed. You cannot write anything. Your control 0 is writable only in the privilege level. So you cannot write anything onto this bit in the user. So, but once it enters, as I have shown, this bit is 0. I mean the control 0 is 1 in the your user thread. Okay. So once it enters the user state, the only way to switch back to the privilege is to trigger an interrupt and change this in the exception handler. So I cannot straight away access the operating system. It has to be handled through your exception handler. There I can write that MRS and MSR registers are used. Yeah, this is to access the control register, the function used underscore get control. And if you want to access a specific value, you can mention which value you want to. And your MRS, yeah, this is the assembly instruction shown how you can read the control register into the specified register R0 and write the control register onto the register on the general register. Okay. Yeah, this I have shown. When a processor exits your reset, okay, so when it exits reset, It will be in the thread mode with privileged access rights. But in user access level, that is a thread mode, access to the system control space, your operating system, the kernel space, the configuration registers and the debugging components, everything is blocked. Okay, you cannot. Okay. The special register instructions like your MSR cannot be used. If program is running at the user access level, which is trying to access your system control space, then there is a fault, an exception occurs that you are trying to access a space which is not allowed, which will cause an exception. Yeah, this diagram shows how you switch between the user mode and the exception mode. So whenever an exception takes place, the processor will always switch to the privileged state, right? It goes to the privileged mode, and you return back to the normal handlers after completing the whatever the exception. Your user program cannot change back to the privileged state directly by writing to the control register. That I have already shown in the beginning itself. I cannot straight away go to the privileged state. It should be done through your handler, through the exception handler. It has to go through the handler. So that is what is shown here. You have a starting code in the privileged state. You switch to the user mode by writing to the control register. Go to the user mode, and if any exception occurs, there is a privilege handler, exception handler, and you can handle so those threads. Then you can come back to the user mode. So if there is any exception occurs, you can have exception handler again. If there are some privileged threads, you want to go to the operating system level, they are called as privileged threads. Run those. So this diagram shows the switching between your privilege and the user thread. I hope this is the diagram itself is, it's a self-explanatory.
Ma'am, I have a doubt. Ma'am, as a normal programmer, what we write as a normal program as well as instruction service routine (ISR).
Correct.
So, ma'am, if in any case my normal program went into exception, like for example in user mode, I am trying to access the MSR or something like that. So, so the exception, is it provided by the vendor itself? Like what will happen if I try to access the MSR?
Yeah, so there are so many exceptions which are defined. What are the mistakes you do it, right? Suppose I try to use some registers which are not allowed. You try to access some memory which is not allowed. So it is immediately it is something like it will try to say that you normally you do control alt delete, right? In simple way.
Yes, ma'am.
Escape. So those are some of the general way of general purpose operating system. We have defined some set of functions. So it will go to that, and it will handle those exceptions.
So will my program, for example, there are some code of line, my MSR, the exception where instruction where exception is created, and then there is a program below it. So will my program resume or my processor will halt there?
Sorry.
For example, there is an exception caused by a particular instruction.
Okay.
And my processor goes to the exception handler. And after that, will my program will it come back to this thing?
Yeah, say there will be it will come back through the handler itself. It will come back. Suppose I restart. You're getting
Not.
it?
Yeah, ma'am, I understood. So my point is like the program which is after the exception causing instruction,
Ah,
will it get executed or my processor will get halted, or how will I know it?
you mean the instructions which are used for handling the special registers?
No, ma'am, no, ma'am. My question is there is a simple program, and
Hmm.
in between there is some instruction which is causing an exception. For
Fine.
example, I try to access MSR in
Okay.
a user mode.
Okay.
So, okay, my program counter comes to it, it gets executed, exception is caused.
Yeah.
So after that, will the rest of my program will get executed, or my processor will get halted?
It will get halted. It will not.
It will not resume.
No, no. Because you are trying to access the instruction, it will go to exception. It will not continue from there.
Okay, okay. And do as a programmer, do we have the rights to modify the exception handler?
No, you cannot, because there are see, these are handled by your the hardware and the software combination, right? They each processor will define its own exceptions. What are maybe there are some user level. I mean, what do you call the for a programmer? If there are futuristic purpose, if they have given, then only. Otherwise, say for example in RTX, they have already defined set of exceptions. So you cannot write your own.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So this, yeah, I was talking about the different special register functions. Moving on, this is a stack operations. Um we know that the push and pop instructions are used for the stack operations. Your stack pointer is incremented or decremented automatically. Yeah, this is just how the various registers are I've already explained, I guess. Multiple registers. So push and pop instructions are allowing the multiple registers. You can push and pop, and when you return, you make use of BX, that is branch exchange, with the link register, so that you can get back the return address. So this is just to show the implementation of the stack memory in ARM Cortex processor. Say I have some data in the register R0, and when I say push R0, your stack pointer will be decremented by 4, and you copy the data on the stack. Okay. Because your address is from, if it is, it is up to the different processor whether it is increment or decrement. I think I have shown that whenever you use the push operation, you decrement by 4 and then copy. When you pop it, copy first, then you increment. Okay. Yeah, this is about the function of the push and pop operations in the ARM Cortex processor. So we have seen, I'm not going to spend more time on the Cortex. I just wanted to show what are the registers need to be known by the programmer, even though we are not using, but we need to know that there are these registers, special registers are used by the processor. Okay. So I've shown all the programmer's model of Cortex-M3 processor showing the various registers and how the different modes of switching can happen in the processor. So now we'll move on to the UART. If you have got any doubts, please ask. Otherwise, I'll go to the next. Any doubts? Hello?
No, ma'am.
Today we shall see only the basics, detailing of how this UART used in how we are going to program the UART. We shall see in the next class. Okay, next class anyway we'll be having the quiz again. Maybe for half an hour or so I'll take the class and then we can have the quiz. Yeah. So this, as we know that the UART is a simple serial communication protocol with an interface. We generally have it in your system, the hardware. So I write any code in your IDE on a host, then I send my hex data, your binary data onto the hardware, right? So normally we do it through your UART. So this is just simple serial communication protocol used having 8 data bits. It's a packet of 8 data bits, and you have a start and a stop bit. And also you have the parity bit. Okay, there's a parity bit. This is how you encode the in whatever the data you want to send it. So there is no clock signal per second. Okay, so you don't have separate. There is a logic high falling to low, logic low. Okay, so there is the receiver can monitor with your a signal called high to low start. It is using its own bus clock for monitoring everything, and with a specific time intervals you send the data. Okay. This is just to know about the basics of UART. You have some certain voltage levels through which you are passing the data. So how do I ensure that whether the data 1 or data 0 it is through the voltage levels? And if you know the UART interface, it is simple to wire having transmit data and the receive data, and there is a ground. Okay. So whenever a device A is connected to device B, your transmit is connected to receive, and device B transmit is connected to receive bit of the device A. Okay. Yeah, this is now coming to that is about the UART protocol. Maybe you know it, must have studied in your embedded systems, and those who have not, just to know, I have shown one or two slides. UART in LPC 1768. Okay, so this controller has got 4 UARTs. It has got 4 UARTs. We number it as 0, 1, 2, 3. And the pins named as your the receive and the transmit. RxD0 to RxD3 and TxD0 to TxD3. So this LPC 1768 pins are multiplexed for multiple functionalities. Okay, I want to minimize the area for which I am using the particular pin for various reasons. Okay, those are multiplexed. Let us see the port pins, and so you have a TXD0 and RxD0. So TXD0, whether normally which we use the UART0, TXD0 is your port 0.2 and RxD0 is port 0.3. So these two pins are connected, and if you refer the specific, maybe the one which I'm using the hardware, maybe the different, we need to refer the data sheet. So what are the pins are connected to that? Okay. Anyway, we are not bothered about the UART communication. Simply when I use the device driver, it will take care of it, and it will dump my code. Okay. But here just to know that there are 4 UARTs, the TXD0, TXD1, TXD2, TXD3, and RxD0, RxD1, RxD2, and RxD3. Okay. So these are the GPIO pins, and the pin select functionalities are given over here. If you just look at this table, your TXD0 is also an ADC. You can, it is combined with your, it is multiplexed with your ADC 07, and RxD0 is ADC 06. Okay. So you, and your TXD1 is with the, there are pin select functionalities are defined with your PWM1, PWM1, 2, etc. We have a different number of pulse width modulators, which normally use it for controlling your DC motors. Now coming to the UART registers, because this we need to understand. Okay, because further in your most of the program we'll be using the UART. So we need to know that how we are going to configure the UART, how UART is configured. We have a register called RBR, THR, FCR, etc. We are going to see in detail of this, okay, one by one. This is just to show that what are the different registers are used. Your RBR contains only the recent received data. RBR is receive buffer. TH is transmit hold register. Okay. Function control register, etc. Anyway, your THR contains the data to be transmitted. It's a buffer. FIFO is a FIFO control register. It will control your buffer. Okay, first in, first out. This showing the description of the function THR. Let us see the format as well, because by knowing the bit field formats, we'll be able to understand how we can program it. Okay. So we need to set some certain bits before I pass any messages or for data transmissions through the UART. Transmit hold register, which contains 8-bit write data. Okay. Now Please note that I'm giving this description for UART 0. The same thing holds good for UART 1, 2, 3, etc. Okay, that's the reason we have given UART 0. And normally we give UART X. It's also 0, 1, 2, 3. The description is given here for UART 0. So hence, this register holds the value to be transmitting. And the receive buffer register, which contains the 8-bit received data through your UART. So which is nothing but your topmost byte of your FIFO. Because as and when you read it, it will be there in the FIFO, and the topmost byte will be there in your receive buffer register. And you have FIFO control register, which has inbuilt 16 byte FIFO, 16 byte. Okay. Please note that 16 byte FIFO for receiver transmitter can store 16 bytes of data received on the UART without overwriting. If you go on further, it will start overwriting on it. So if the data is not read before your queue is filled, then the new data will be lost. Okay. And normally, overrun error will be set. And you have a line control register. This is used to, it's an additional control register used in the UART. It's an 8-bit, which has got several parameters like your word length, stop bit, parity, enable, etc. It's purely a control register. So this plays an important role while you initialize the UART. Okay, so you'll be using this. And you have DLL and DLM, which are used for baud rate generator. These are the baud rate generator divide registers through which you can set up different baud rate for the UART. And you have a functional divide register. So this is another important register. This again plays a role in your baud rate generation. It is an 8-bit. First 4 bits, that is 0 to 3, this is a prescale divider value. If this value is 0, then fractional baud rate generator have no effect on the UART 0. Okay, so which we mean, if you come across with some, you can have integer values or the fractional values. Okay. So suppose I want to set up some certain baud rate. So we do some, we need to save the registers with the values which I'm supposed to. Maybe, I don't know whether you have gone through in your microprocessor how you make use of the baud rate generation. So for baud rate generation, we compute what are the values to be used and copy in the register so that it will set up with the specific baud rate. So now normally we use 9600. Either you can reduce the baud rate or increase the baud rate by having certain setup changes. Okay. You have the functional divide register. This has 0 when fractional baud rate generator have no effect on but the remaining bit 4 to 7, okay, it's a val. This defines prescale multiply value. Even if fractional baud rate generator is not used, the value in this register must be more than or equal to 1. Okay. Anyway, this is used in exceptional cases. We normally don't use this, but just for curiosity's sake, we can see how, I mean, what is the application of this particular register. Yeah, this is your the FIFO control register, simple. FIFO control register has inbuilt 16-byte FIFO for receiver transmitter. So you will you can see here, it's a 32-bit register. The bits 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5, 6 to 7. Okay. So you have got some certain value, FIFO enable, receiver FIFO reset. So it is a FIFO control register. As inbuilt 16-byte FIFO receiver, it can store 16-byte data received on UART without overwriting. The data is not read before your queue, then you will come out with the overrun error. I mean, it's trying to overwrite on the scene. Okay, this is just to, I mean, it is you are not what do you call writing onto it. It will give you the indication. It is given alert, hence FIFO enable, FIFO reset, etc. Yeah, this is the bit fields of the register. Bit 0 is used to enable transmitted. This is used to clear the 16-byte receiver FIFO. Okay. Bit 1, you can clear the 16-byte. And bit 2 is used to clear the 16-byte transmitter FIFO. You have a 16-byte receiver FIFO, 16-byte transmitter FIFO. Means that is a buffer. So the data which you are going to transmit will be sent in a queue. Okay. So bit 0, 1, 2 are used for your the various receive FIFO and transmit FIFO, and bit 0 is used to enable or disable the FIFO. Whether I want to enable, I need to enable it through this particular bit. So if it is 0, FIFO is disabled. Okay. And you have direct memory access. It is done through your bit 3. And 6 to 7 is receiver trigger used to select the number of bytes of the receiver data to be written so as to enable the interrupt. Okay. So 0, 0, 0, 1, it has got its own functions. This is just to give the description of the registers. We have seen the FIFO control register. Another important register which is line control register. Line control register. Yeah. So this line control register is used for defining the frame format, your packet, whatever the format which you are going to transmit or receive. The format of the UART. So here you specify the bit 10, that word length select. These are used to select the character length. 00 means 5-bit character, 01 6-bit, 10 7-bit character, 11 is 8-bit character length. Okay, we are going to see actually what is the size character length which we are using in our normal program. Bit 2 is stop bit selection. This bit is used to select the number of stop bits. As I've shown in the first slide of this, the data frame has got start bit and the stop bit and the parity bit. The data is embedded with the start, stop, and your parity. Okay. So this can be used to select the number of stop bits. You can say it is, if it is 0, 1 stop, if it is 1, 2 stop bits. And bit 3 is parity enable. Okay. This is used, if it is 0, disable parity generation and checking. Whenever it is 1, enable your parity generation and checking. And the next parity selections, whether I want to have for odd parity or even parity, and have a stick parity post 1. Okay. So we have different types of parity. Then you have a bit 6, it is a break control, which will which is 0, disable your break transmission. That is, if it is 1, enable the break transmission, output pin of TXD pin is forced to logic 0. Okay. So you can forcibly make it logic 0. Then I have a divisor latch bit. This also we are using in our program, bit 8 DLAB. This bit is used to enable the access to the divisor latch. So because the clocking has to be made, you need to slow down your PLL. So this is a divisor latch bit. So 0 means disable access to the divisor. Whenever 1, it is enable access to the divisor latch. Yeah, I'll stop here. Maybe we can continue in the next, because otherwise it is so theory, I just have to go on. Maybe in the next class I'll start with the 2-3 registers, and we shall see how we can program, I mean not the programming, how we are going to configure the UART configuration. If you have got any doubts, please ask, because this is these are the just register formats which are very important to know while using the UART.